Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Noor Networks. In this tutorial, we will be learning how to publish your internal server over internet and how it can be accessible on port 80, that is HTTP port. In order to reduce the tutorial time, I have done some prerequisites configuration, that is port C of the firewall is being configured with IP address 172.16.0.200, placing the port C in DMZ. Let me show you quickly. This is the port C of your firewall of your Sophos XG firewall, and I have placed this in network zone DMZ, and the IP address is 172.16.0.200/24 as per our network design. The second thing is that this particular port C network adapter is assigned to be VMNet 2. Let me show you that as well. This is our Sophos XG firewall, and if you will see the network adapter, that is the network adapter 3, which is port C of your Sophos XG firewall, is a VMNet 2. Okay. Additionally, what we did, we have installed one Windows Server 2019 with the IP address to be 172.16.0.100, and even this is in VMNet 2, which means it is directly connected to port C of the firewall, and the gateway which we have used is port C interface IP address. Let me show you this as well. Going to web server, the very first thing I will be showing you the IP address and the gateway. So as per the network design, the IP address is 172.16.0.100/24, and the gateway is port C interface IP, which is 172.16.0.200. And the network adapter of this particular server is VMNet 2, which means port C is directly connected to, or you can say port C is in the same network where we have kept this particular server, that is a DMZ server, that is a web server. Okay. We will be creating a short web page over here for our lab so that we can call a website. Basically, what I will do over here, I will be very quick because this tutorial is made for publishing the server over internet through the Sophos XG firewall, which we will be calling on port 80. So how to build the server, just for the requirement purpose, I will show you quickly. You will be opening a server manager. You can just click start button, and from your server manager, for me it is already open, you can add roles and features from here, or you will click on manage and add roles and features. When the wizard open, click next. Keeping the setting default, click next. Keeping the setting default, because we are configuring this on 172.16.0.100 itself, we are installing the roles and features, click next. Over here from the rows, you will check this box web server IIS, and the new wizard will open. Click on add features, keeping everything default, click next. On this features, click next. We need a common HTTP features which are checked by default, click next, and click on install button, and the installation will begin. The installation will take some time, so we will wait and then we will proceed with the configuration further. So guys, the installation is completed successfully. We will close this, and before we begin with the configuration, what we have to do is we will open a notepad over here, text document, or else we'll do one thing, we will simply open a notepad. Okay, we will say my website no networks labs. Okay, we'll save this on the desktop and we'll give name test with the extension HTML. You should save this particular notepad with name.html and save as type all files. Click on save, and you will see that this particular thing is saved over here. Okay, now we will be going to the default directory, that is C drive, inetpub, www root over here, and we will create one folder over here with the name, let's say we'll give test only over here also, and the file which we have created over here, we will move it to this particular folder which is inside www root directory. Okay, sorry guys, and we'll minimize this. Then moving again to the server manager, what we are going to do is we will click on tools button and we will go to IIS, Internet Information Services Manager. Over here, when this IIS manager page opens, you will, from the left pane over here, you will expand this. Going to sites over here, you will right click on the site and you will add a website. The name you have to give the name like new network labs. Then it is asking you for the physical path. You have to give the path where you have saved this. It was in under C drive, inetpub, www root, www root, and the folder was test, right? Click on OK. Then binding, it is asking for binding type. We need HTTP, right? Because if you select HTTPS, then it will ask for SSL certificate and all. We don't have SSL certificate, and we are interested to call a website on HTTP, that is port 80. IP address all assigned, we will say 172.16.0.180. And then it is asking for host name. We are not doing any particular website or web page tutorial. We are not interested in host name. We can call from IP address just for a testing purpose and click on OK button. Once you click here, you will just try to browse this. Click on explore. Okay, this is the path. This is the site you have created. Okay. So now once the site is created, you just click on browse. It won't work as it should work. Let's see. It's not working. The reason is quite simple, because we haven't defined the default page over here. So what you are going to do, when you just expand the site in No Network Labs, click on default document over here and add it. Click on add button from the right side over here in the action. And we will say test.html. Click OK. Now we will be just going to new networks and we will try to browse. And you will see that your website is being called now, right? What was the error I did purposely to show you? For the new networks, default page was not defined, right? So what we did, the default page, the name is test.html, the one which we have created, right? So simply going to new networks lab over here and going to default document over here. I open this and I have added a default page with the name test.html, and you can see now you are able to browse the site locally. The content which you have defined is coming. So now your website is created. We will now, what we will do, we will be now configuring a Sophos XG firewall to call this particular website. Okay, let's go to the firewall interface. So going to firewall interface, the very first thing which we will be doing is we will be adding the host. I mean this particular IP address of the DMZ server, internal server. You can say going to host and services. You will say add and website is the name. The IP address is 172.16.0.100. Save it. We need port 80 services, right? And I believe that port 80 will be there definitely. The HTTP port is a pre-configured port. It is there. HTTP port, this port 80 is already there. So we don't need to add the port over here. Going to rules and policies. Go to NAT rule. Guys, till the earlier version, the job was quite manual, where you have to add several NAT rules, a firewall rule over there you need to add. But in version 18.5 and hereafter, the things are quite simple and very user friendly. you it will give, if you click on, if you go to firewall rules and policies and you go to NAT rule over here, if you will click on add NAT rule, it is giving you option service server access assistant DNAT. It will basically assist you to create this DNAT rule over here. You will see that when I click this server access assistant DNAT, let me show you again. I went to firewall rules and policies, then I went to NAT rules over here, and in click add NAT rule server access assistant DNAT. It has opened a wizard for me. For very first thing which is asking me is that internal server IP address. What is the internal server IP address? Select IP host or type IP address. So I have already created, right, with the name website. I will simply choose this and I will click on next. The second thing, it is saying public IP address. Specify the public IP address through which user can access the server. Guys, usually in the corporate environment, this type of configuration which we are doing for the lab purpose will not work, because over there you have a public IP address for each and every services. For your website, there will be a service. For webmail, there will be a, sorry, for a website there will be a static public IP address. For a webmail, there will be a public static IP address being you have taken from the service provider. So each and every service will be netted to one public IP address. Over here we will be using the interface IP address itself for calling this particular service, right? So I will say select public IP address or WAN interface. I will be selecting WAN interface over here. Our WAN interface is port B, right? Let me take you to the network design and show this. Port B is our WAN interface. I will select the WAN interface, that is port B. Okay. Or else, usually, if you are configuring this in a live environment where you will be having public IP addresses, so you will be assigning that particular IP address over here. Now, for this lab, click next. Services. User can access the selected services on the internal server. Basically, you will say you need to open only port 80 HTTP port and select this. Click on next. External source network and devices. User can access the internal server from the selected source network and devices. Guys, over here you can restrict the access to a particular IP address or to a particular network zone. So basically, you can define a geographical location. Removing this any, you can simply define a geographical location over here, like India or Indonesia or any other country, United Arab Emirates, or else you can simply define a set of IP addresses from which this particular services should be accessible. But for now, I will say any. That is the default option, and we will click on next. If you see over here, it is giving you the review of your selection. It is saying internal server to access from the internet is 170.16.0.100 with a host name website. The public IP address through which user can access the internal server is 192.168.0.200, and thereafter it is saying the services that can user can access is HTTP only. From where the services can be accessible, it is any. And additionally, it has added a note that it creates three NAT rule: inbound NAT, outbound NAT, and loopback NAT. Creates one firewall rule. So we will see this. Simply click on save and finish. So if you see over here, as it has added a node, it has created three NAT rules: DNAT, website, loopback, and a reflexive NAT5 DNAT rule. And it has created one firewall rule also. This is a rule which is created now. Okay. So guys, over here we have completed the required configuration which you need to do for publishing any of your services over a internet. Okay. So what were the two steps? First step, we created a host, and second, it was a very easy simple step where we have simply click on the assistant network assistant going to net rules, and it has opened a wizard for you which simply asks you few of the things to where to define where you have defined the source IP address, the destination IP address, the location from where the site should be accessible, and few details you have put, and it has created three NAT rules, one firewall rule. So these things are created. Let me take you outside of the network, and from there we will try to reach this particular. I mean, we will be trying using a WAN IP because we haven't used any of the public IP. I mean, the different IP address. We have said that we will be calling this particular services from the WAN interface IP itself. We have netted this internal server IP address to the public IP address, that is a WAN interface IP address, and we will now try to call the link from outside the network. So guys, over here I am outside the network now. What I'm going to do, just let me show you the IP address as well of my machine. You will see the IP address of my machine is this one, which is something different, has nothing to do with our lab IP addresses, and I will be calling the public IP, that is this IP address 192.168.0.200, and you can see my website is reachable. So guys, over here you can see from the internet this particular site is reachable. Coming again to the firewall, we will just try to see the logs over here. You can see the traffic, it is hitting, right. Let me take you to the log. One 172.16.0.100. It's not still reflecting. It will take some time. We will check again. But before that, let me show you one more thing. We tried to access this particular website from outside the network. It was accessible, right? Let me take you to the LAN, one of the LAN machine. That is this machine I'm talking about, 10.1.1.150 or 10.1.1.100. Okay, let me take you over there. This is client PC1. Okay, okay, so we'll just try now to access this particular machine, I mean the website from here. 192.168.0.200. Okay, just let me confirm. Yeah, it is. Okay, so guys, you can see that although this particular website is accessible from the internet, but still when you're trying to call from the LAN, it is not accessible. The reason is quite simple. Usually by default, definitely a LAN to a DMZ won't be accessible. We need to create a rule, right? So over here what we are going to do, going to the firewall over here, sorry, going to the firewall over here, we will create a rule to access this website from the internal network. Also we'll create a new firewall rule. Over here we will say LAN to DMZ. Let's position it on the top, accept, none, log the firewall traffic. Source zone will be LAN, source network can be any, destination zone will be DMZ. But when you're working in the corporate and over there in the live environment, when you're opening anything on the DMZ, it is highly recommended you open a restricted part only as and when required, what is required. So basically on the live environment, you will say on the LAN side you will be opening only client PC1 because you want only client PC1 access, right? So you will say client PC1 only. Else if the requirement is an entire, when we talk about website, the each and every user want to access, right? So in that case you can open everything. But when you're opening the RDB session and all, at that time you have to be bit cautious. Okay, LAN source network is any, the destination zone is DMZ, destination network can be any in the DMZ. If you want to define a particular website, you can, I mean the website IP, you can do that. Services can be any. Let's customize this and we will say website Services, we will say I need only HTTP. Okay, select this. Since it's inside rule, we are not going over the internet. We don't need IP address translation. We won't touch the NAT rule. Web filtering, application filtering is definitely not required. We will simply save it. So the rule is created now, and we have opened the HTTP port and be accessible from LAN to DMZ for the website. Let's go again to this machine over here, and we will try to call this from here. And one more thing, guys, since it is internal, so you don't need to go to the internet, right? I did one mistake over here. You will simply calling the website, that is 0.100, and you can see it is accessible. Now, just I will do one thing. I will now the question comes. You will be saying that before I was calling from the internet IP, now I am calling from it. Let me do one thing. I will just minimize this. I will disable this rule, and again, you won't be able to access it. I will go to the okay, and I will simply call this link. I have turned off the rule now, and you will see that the website is again not reachable. So this rule is required. I did one mistake over there that I was calling from the WAN IP. However, if you are sitting inside, you don't need to come from outside, and it will not even work also. But yes, even to call this particular website from the public private IP address that is 170.16.0.100, if the LAN or DMZ rule is not there, this website won't be reachable. And you can see this over here. It's not reachable, right? It's not reaching. So in order to reach, again I have to turn on this rule over here, and I will simply refresh the page. Let me check if the rule is on. The configuration update is going on. Let's wait for some time till the rule. Okay, it's on now. I will be going to my machine, and you can see the site is reachable now. So this is how, guys, you can configure. I mean, in the first step we have configured from the wizard we have configured a NAT rule and a firewall rule to publish the web server over the internet over the port 80, and thereafter we have created an internal rule that is from LAN to DMZ for the LAN user to access the website which is hosted in the DMZ network. So guys, that's all about the publishing of the website over a public network and trying to reach to the port 80. So in the coming tutorial, we will be looking like how we can do the same thing, how we can achieve the same thing using a public IP address and using a different IP address. I mean, like over here, let me take you to the network design. Over here, what we have done, we have publish this particular website web server over the internet, and we try to call using this. But in the real environment, when you have a multiple services, and practically it is not possible also that using a WAN interface IP address of the firewall you will be calling your web services also. So in the coming tutorial, what we are going to do is like what we do in our live environment, like we use this particular IP address is being assigned on the WAN interface from the same network, if you have taken the services from the ISP over there, they will say that the bunch of 8 IP address, I mean the IP address, eight block of IP address or 16 block of IP address being assigned. So what you do from that 8 IP address block, you use one IP address for the WAN interface of the firewall. The rest all you can use for hosting the public services. So this live example also we will be doing in the next tutorial before we finish this particular topic. And additionally, two more things we will be doing, that like we will be trying to open port 80, apart from port 80, RDP port, how you can open for any server from the public network. Usually, to be very honest, in a live environment, you don't do such things. You don't open an RDP port and all. Just for the learning purpose, I will show you that as well. So that's all, guys, in this tutorial. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe now and share with your friends. Thanks, and see you in the next tutorial.